Welcome to the Interstate Mets Report with your hosts, Nelson and Chris.
Yo, what is up, everybody? It is Nelson here, aka the Amish Country Mets fan, here with another episode of the Interstate Mets Report, joined again by my buddy and co-host Chris. It's been a minute. How you doing, bud?
Doing well. Nice little trip to Dallas over the Labor Day weekend. I was in Cowboys, Cowgirls territory over there. So, nice little trip. Didn't really watch the Mets, but I've been keeping tabs on the box score to talk about our guy Ronny here. I have some owning up to do on this episode, so let's get into it. I'm excited.
Sounds good. Yeah, it's been an interesting week since we last. It's been actually a little over a week. We didn't do an episode last Tuesday. The last episode we did was the Friday before that, with the whole blooper fiasco. I believe was that episode. I hate that mascot. I really do. And please don't clip that and tag him in it because I don't want to hear his shit again. But yeah, it's been interesting. I did the show solo Friday. It was what it was. And then I haven't really watched much Mets baseball either, to be honest. I did watch a Friday game with Senga pitching and Ronnie's debut. I had to check that out. Senga was, looked phenomenal.
Phenomenal again. Yeah.
He's really, he's making a case for Rookie of the Year status at this point. I know he probably won't win it, but you can make an argument at this point for Senga, and I don't think people could fight you too hard on it. And if he keeps up pitching that way throughout the season, if they let him keep pitching and he pitches that great, then if Corbin Carroll slips up a little bit, you never know. So great start by him. He didn't get the win though. The offense didn't really give him much help, and then the bullpen had to come in. So they did end up winning 2-1 that game. Took 2 or 3. I know you didn't watch much. You did see. I think you said you saw some clips and whatnot. Any particular takeaways from what you saw?
No, I really wanted to point out and highlight Kodai Senga's box line. He's got his ERA down to 3.08. He's almost in the twos. So, yeah, 100%. I know Corbin Carroll's up there for Rookie of the Year voting, but at this point in juncture, Senga's got to be considered, right? Definitely top 3 Rookie of the Year candidate, and he's making his case for why, he should get more votes than not. And I wasn't sure if he went 6 or 7. I thought I saw 7 in the box line. Do you know exactly what it was? Was it 6 or 7?
He went 7, 5 hits, 1 run, 2 walks, which is phenomenal. Like, he's really cutting down on the walks, and 12 Ks. So he was pretty lights out.
Yeah. Okay. So I wanted to point out Senga. Phenomenal stat line: 12 Ks over 7 innings pitched, ERA down to 3.08 on the season. Wanted to point out Mr. Pete Alonso. I saw the multi-home run game as well. We'll talk about him as well. Reached another milestone, another season milestone, I should say, as you see on your screen. And I know this was a different series. I believe this was against the Rangers, the third game of the series, and I didn't get to do that post or the show with you, the Interstate Mets Report show with you on Friday. But Mr. DJ Stewart, the DJ Stewart game, I did see that as well. I think he had a couple home runs and the walk-off hit by pitch. And dude, man, I love DJ Stewart. I'm sorry, and I know that it's sort of more of a fad at this point, and we all still know that he's probably going to be fighting for a bench spot on the team next season. But this guy has heart. He has character. I've liked DJ Stewart from the start, and he's playing phenomenal ball too. So I just wanted to highlight him real quick. But all in all, it was a good series dub against the Mariners, from what it seemed like. It's good to string along wins when you can this point in the season to give us some things to watch. And I guess learn from for guys that we're seeing for next season. So heavily watching Quintana, heavily watching DJ Stewart. Want to see how Lindor keeps going. Want to see how Pete Alonso finishes the season. All the mainstays, and then Quintana as well. I'm going to keep watching. I think we're going to see him in this series, I believe, coming up, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
But yeah,
Quintana
just
pitched
as
tonight.
a highlight tonight, right?
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. So good series, man. I didn't watch most of it, but from what I saw in the highlights, and we'll talk about Ronny Mauricio, I saw in the box score, he's got more hits than not in his early goings here in his 11 at bats so far. So yeah, man, it's good stuff all around. As good as stuff that we can see at this point of the season. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And they could have easily swept the series, to be honest. From what I hear, I didn't watch a game Saturday. I did catch moments from the game Sunday in that win, but the game Saturday, Ottavino blew it, stunk up the joint, which he's kind of been up and down all year.
This season,
ERA,
you know what I mean?
his ERA isn't bad. It's 3.17, but he's really coughed up the game in some big moments. The bullpen's just been atrocious this year.
I know you DM'd me about Drew Meatballs. Tell me about Drew Meatballs. What I miss with him?
Drew Meatballs. Oh, no, he saved the game on Friday night. The only reason I laughed at him is because he was one of the ones at the tennis match that everybody was making a deal about, because the WFAN psycho fans.
I know. Whatever his name is. Yeah.
It's a joke, man. Listen, I'm gonna go on a little side tangent here real quick. The season needs to end because fans are losing it. These WFAN idiots are just spouting off at the mouth at just garbage. They're just making up stuff to talk about. Like, people really need to stop. This has been an interesting week for me on the X app, I guess you call it now. You got it started with the whole blooper crap, which I had to mute him and all that garbage.
Wait, can we like go backtrack and explain that real quick though for our viewers? I don't know if you all are listening, whoever's listening out there. I know we're gonna get to some comments here in the comments section. We got a couple to display. Shout out everybody watching right now. We did our last full episode was 2 weeks ago because he did it. Nelson did it solo on Friday. On Tuesday, we didn't have a show. Last Friday, I believe it was. We talked about blooper. It was honestly a joke of a segment. We just didn't have much to talk about. We talked about blooper. I clipped it. I posted it on my Twitter account. If you don't follow me, go to my media. It's at CPNYSports is all my handles. If you go to my X account, I clipped it, and blooper himself went and ratioed us, all of us, Interstate, Nelson, myself, all of our accounts. And it was probably one of the most hilarious things I've ever been a part of and experienced on Twitter/X, that I got ratioed pretty heavily because I guess Braves country like goes hard for blooper, and they're like kind of like a cult sort of following of bloopers, and they ratioed us to no end. So go back, all you guys. If you don't follow me on Twitter, X, go ahead at CPNY Sports, look through my media, and you find that clip. And it was the most hilarious thing that I thought I've ever been part of. But just want to side segment that.
Yeah, no, it was a joke. I'm no fan of bloopers. I don't care. I can't. It was too much. Then the way he worded the tweet was to like attract nothing but bots. So we got like 500 bots like responding to the tweet. It was just a nightmare.
Like somebody write me an essay, somebody give me a graphic design, all in a row, and I had at least like 100+ comments. And the tweet viewers, I'm not sure if it's accurate or not, got up to like 100K or something like that. It was nuts, but yeah, it was a funny moment for me on the weekend. Honestly, it was all good and fun.
Yeah, I muted it. I couldn't anymore. It was just nonstop comment after comment. I'm like, I can't take this crap. And then it spiraled from there, and then the whole WFAN crap that I was trying to just not pay attention to. And then on a whim, I decided to do I don't even know why I decided to do it. I was screwing around on Canva, which I use to make graphics and stuff. And I saw like a template with like 6 boxes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I can do something with this. I mean, what can I do? I decided, you know what? I'd like to see who people would pick as their bench bat in all-time Mets history. So I picked 6 guys. I know Mets history pretty well. I picked 6 guys just on my own, just picking guys from through history that I thought were good, like pinch hitters and good off the bench. So I threw it up. It actually got some traction. A lot of people responded. Rusty Staub got the win. I wouldn't have picked him. I would have gone with Lenny Harris or Matt Franco, but I'm going with what the people say. So then I decided to just roll with it. So I just kept doing it. Now we're filling out a whole roster. We're filling out the Amish Country Mets fan all-time Mets roster as voted on by my followers. And
saw that. Good stuff.
Yeah, it's been fun. It's gotten a lot of traction, like actual traction, not troll traction from Blooper. So like it's been cool. But the fact that some people just can't take a joke is hilarious. Like, I started out pretty serious. All 6 options were pretty, like, legit in the first few. And
I saw you started trolling them for a second.
Yeah, and then I'm like, listen, let's be real here. Like, for right field, everybody knows Darryl Strawberry is going to win right field. There's no other right fielder that has a chance. So I figured one of the names I'm going to throw out there is just going to be a joke. So I put DJ Stewart in there. So then I kept going with that. For every position, I just started putting in a joke. Because in every position, it's only coming down to 1 or 2 guys anyway.
Yeah.
I was like getting attacked by people. Why did you even put Tomas Nido in the catcher category? Why did you put Mark Canha at third base? Mark Canha played 1 game at third base. If you can't tell I was joking, then come on, like, get a life.
Yeah.
Like, you weren't gonna vote for whoever I threw up there anyway. So it's just been crazy, the whole X thing. But if you want to check that out, you can follow me at Amish Country Met on X. I'm gonna go through and catch up on some of these comments before we jump to our next topic here. By the way, the Mets did win that 3rd game of the series, 6-3. Just to round that out. So they took the series. Jung-Hoo Lee says, hi, Nelson and Chris. What's up, Jung-Hoo? Aaron, how bad is Buck cringing at the lineup against the Naps tonight, baby Mets? Yeah, all 4 guys are in there, back to back. Vientos, Beatty, Alvarez, and Mauricio are all in the lineup. Oh, a new viewer, Grant Purpura. Isn't this Jenny Metz?
Jenny GNY. Yeah, shout out Grant. Shout out Grant for tuning in.
Just keep up the good work. Granted, I think that account might have got suspended. hope that works out. But
shout out Grant. I appreciate you tuning in. Thank you for supporting.
Shout out Grant. Go check him out. JNY Sports, our buddy. He was on the show with us once. We'll have to have him on again sometime. Really good series win for the team. Really showed that the team is not that far off as it seems. Looking forward to seeing the baby Mets go more playing time. Yeah, that's a big thing to look forward to. Stevie Mack, another regular of ours. DJ Stewart is not sure.
Yes, sir. I am the president of the DJ Stewart fan club. I'm sorry, man. I'm already claiming it. Love me some DJ Stewart. Shout out Stevie.
He also says WFAN New York is so awful. It really is. It's truly horrible. JNY Sports, Lindor has a newborn. Yeah, that's a response to the whole Lindor didn't go with the rest of the crew. Like, dude has a kid and a wife and things to do, like, other than go to tennis with the rest of the team.
So real quick on that, Evan Roberts, actually, I guess he's also part of WFAN. And shout out, I don't know if you've been tracking, I guess, Al, Tio Al, my infamous take. He's on WFAN now as well. I know I've been following him from the start, bro. I'm not gonna lie to you. Even before I started doing all this, I followed my infamous take. I followed Al on Twitter. Shout out him. But I guess he did a segment with Evan Roberts too, so that's huge. As part of their main show. But Evan Roberts actually responded to that guy and said, so what? I saw he quoted, he's like, so what? We don't hang out outside of work and get on with it. So I thought that was pretty funny a pretty funny answer, at least.
That's a great point. People were I even saw a take today that said Alonso shouldn't have even been at the match because he should be worried about baseball, and that proves he's not a good leader. Dude, these guys have lives. Do you just go to work and do nothing else and sleep, drink, eat, work, and that's it?
Yeah.
Like, that's what you expect people to do? Like, that's not realistic. These guys are going to go have fun sometimes. They need to. If not, they're going to perform even worse. They need to get their mind off the game sometimes. So give me a break with all this garbage. JNY says Lindor's a good dad, spends as much time with the family as he can. The hate this guy receives makes me root for him more. I totally agree. It's ridiculous, and we're going to get to him here in a second. Aaron Cass, I know I said to use Ramon Castro or Mike Nikias instead of Nito, jokingly, of course. Yeah, no, I understood you were joking. There were just some people that were really serious about the fact that I was just using some of these guys, and it was just ridiculous.
What ended up happening with the catching position? I saw there was a debate between Gary Carter and Mike Piazza. Who ended up winning? It was Piazza, I'm sure, but
yeah, Piazza. Listen, the one thing I've learned from this, that 1986 Mets fans are riding hard for their guys. Like, let's be honest, Hojo. I love Hojo. He had no business giving David Wright a run for his money for the third base spot, and there were a ton of votes for Hojo, and there was even a couple of votes for Ray Knight, who. Come on, like the only reason people were voting for him because he was on the 86 Mets. And Gary Carter, listen, I credit to him. He was a huge catalyst for winning that World Series. Without him, they probably don't. But if you look at the stats, realistically, their stats as a Met, because I think people need to remember this is about Mets, not their careers outside of the Mets. This is about their Mets careers. If you look at their Mets careers, Piazza clears them pretty easily, numbers wise. But it was tied. Like there was pretty much a deadlock of responses. So then I just said the tiebreaker would be a poll. And I guess the Carter fans didn't show up for the poll because Piazza took the poll pretty easily. But yeah, it was an interesting choice there. But Piazza did take it, which I'm happy about because he's my favorite Met of all time. So
he is. I actually did see that tweet. I did see that tweet. That's that's obviously before, mostly before my time, before I even started getting into baseball. But I mean, who my favorite Met is of all time. It's Jose Reyes, and I made sure to shout Jose Reyes out on your shortstop. Who ended up winning the shortstop? Was it Reyes or I know Lindor received a lot of credit too, but
yeah, Lindor took it. I kind of broke the tie on that one myself, to be honest. I would have given it to Reyes, but I don't want to get too crazy with it. Just some of his background and what he did in the past kind of like.
You're talking about like off the field stuff?
Yeah, off the field stuff. And if we're being honest, if Lindor keeps up how he's doing, he's going to clear Reyes eventually, just numbers wise and whatnot. So that's why I went in Lindor's favor. But I do like Reyes a lot. He was also one of my favorite Mets. Stevie Mack, imagine the amount of partying Mark Harvey would be doing right now if he was on this Mets team. Yeah, he'd like to party, and that's no secret there. We're jumping in. For some reason, it won't move the little green thing to the Lindor.
We got it.
Okay. Was I just doing the wrong one? Maybe.
No, that was on me.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. All right. So next topic, Lindor potential 30-30 season. Over the weekend, Lindor swiped another bag and hit another home run. He's got 25 and 25. It's going to be tough, but they asked him about it in an interview and he wants to do it. It's actually aiming for the whole 30-30 thing. It would be awesome for him to pull it off, especially after all the garbage fans have talked about him this season. He's obviously having a phenomenal year. 25 and 25 alone is great. He's the first Met to pull that off, I think, since Beltran in 2008, I think it was. So, yeah, Lindor doing a great job. I hope he can pull it off. He's got, 3-4 weeks left. We'll see. Obviously, he's going to be trying. The only thing I hope doesn't happen is he tries for the home run too much and it kind of his production slips a little bit. Obviously, if he gets singles, you're probably going to see him try to steal some bags and force the issue a little bit there. which that doesn't bother me. But I hope he just lets the homers come to him and doesn't push it too hard. But what are your thoughts on Lindor's shot for 30-30? Do you think he can pull it off?
Yeah, 30-30 is impressive. I think you said Beltran did it or almost did it in 08, you said? I know
Beltran
David
was
Wright
the
did
last
it.
guy to do 25 and 25. I don't think he
25.
pulled off 30-30.
Okay, I think David Wright did it in 07 when we talked about David Wright a couple weeks ago. He had a 30-30 season in 07. And honestly, I mean, if I'm Lindor, I'm trying for it anyways too. I mean, what is the point of not trying for it, to be honest with you? I mean, he's got his batting average. Everyone was killing him for his batting average early on in the season. He's got that up to around 250. I think it's 249 exactly on the dot. Another 25-plus home run season out of Francisco Lindor. The stolen bases are up there as well. I mean, it's to be expected from everybody across the league that is capable of stealing bases, I guess minus if your name is Brandon Nimmo, to steal more bases than you normally would in regular seasons past because of the new rule changes. So I think the stolen bases he will get easily. I think that is not the question. I think the home run happiness, like you said, I mean, we are on September 5th. We've got just under a month left to play. I think he can get there. I really do think he can get there. I mean, 5 home runs is not a lot by any stretch of the imagination. I don't want to see him change his swing around to try to only go for it. But I mean, like, the guy's being honest with the media. Who wouldn't be, if they're that close, go for a 30-30 season, to be honest with you? Let's keep it a buck. So, yeah, impressive season so far, 25-25. 30-30, even better. I mean, really, the people who hate Lindor, who continually bash on him, they are really trying to reach in their pockets to find another trick up their sleeve, or whatever terminology you want to use to try to bash on this guy. I saw that web gem of a play that he made at shortstop on a bullet off the bat of, I forgot who the Mariner was that hit it. I think it was Julio Rodriguez that hit it. Made a phenomenal play for the double play. Ronny turned it. So, I mean, on all cylinders, he's been impressive. I get it. The only thing that I might say is that, okay, he turned it around a little bit too late for everybody's liking because the Mets are not playing meaningful baseball. That can be said for pretty much everybody. That can be said for Pete Alonso as well. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. 30-30 season. I can't remember the last Met who went 30-30. Was it right in 07? I don't think there's been anybody since then, has there?
I don't think anybody else has done it. No.
I don't think anybody's been there. So, yeah, man. I mean, honestly, shout out Lindor. Hopefully he finishes the season strong, not only Lindor, but everybody. But, yeah, go for the 30-30 if you can. 5-5. Stolen base is going to get it. I'm telling you right now he's going to get it. But the home runs is really the question. So we'll see what happens, man. Honestly, I've been impressed with Lindor over the last couple of weeks, last couple of months. He's been turning around. Complete 180 from what he was going on, pre-All-Star break, plus like the couple weeks after the All-Star break. I know he had that hot stretch before the All-Star break, and then we were like, all right, yeah, he's going to keep it going. He kind of cooled down right after the All-Star break, but then he picked it right back up. So it's been impressive. I mean, that is the franchise shortstop. He's getting paid like it. He's got the amount of years on his contract to be one, and he has been one so far outside of maybe that first season as a Met with the adjustment changes. So, no, 100% agree. Impressive stuff, man.
Yeah, once his daughter was born in like mid-late June, he really turned it around. Like you said, then the All-Star break kind of came and it cooled him off for a little bit, but then he picked it right back up, which I was trying to tell people over and over again. He's a second-half player. Nobody wanted to hear it, but whatever. Let's catch up on a couple comments before we move on. Edgardo Osorio says, I believe Francisco Lindor should trade power for average to excel his game. I mean, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I don't have a problem. If he's hitting 250, 270, I don't have a problem with that. Like, yeah, 220 maybe is a little low, but he obviously picked that up. I don't think he should necessarily sell out and just. I don't want him to turn into Jeff McNeil either, who's just a slap hitter. Like I want the power from Lindor. Jung-Hoo, last person hit 30-30 is Howard Johnson. I thought David Wright did.
It was right in 07. He hit
right.
30 and 34. I think Jane said that down below.
Depressed Mr. Met. think might be a new viewer. I don't remember Depressed Mr. Met before. Says hello, what's up?
I think I saw Depressed Mr. Men on one of the shows before. I think
have you?
this is his
Okay.
second time. So what's up, men? Or women?
JNY, David Wright in 07, 30 homers, 34. That's what we thought. Yeah, it's been a while. Depressed Mr. Met, I have a feeling that only Alvarez and Mauricio will produce at the major league level. I think that Mark Vientos and Beatty are going to be a little above average players. Yeah, we'll see. If any of them I don't believe in, it's Vientos. I really think we need to slow up on judging Beatty yet. I think he still has time to turn it around. And listen, Alvarez has been slumping really bad himself. So I'm not saying to give up on him. I'm saying I think he's the goods too. But I think we need to cool ourselves on reacting to like small sample sizes. Yes, Mauricio's getting off to a great start, and that's great. And we're going to talk about it here in a minute. But let's not just assume now he's a Hall of Famer because he had a couple of good games. Like I remember Ike Davis got off to a huge start in his career, and he ended up being a bum. Other guys I could say that for, like Mark Jacobs, I believe was one, or Mike Jacobs. I forget his name. That's how forgettable he got off to a good start. Like there's been multiple Mets that have gotten off to great starts in their careers and ended up being nothing. I'm not saying that's going to happen with Mauricio. I'm just saying let's chill before we start just proclaiming things off of a game or two or a month or two or anything like that. Even a year. Like sometimes these guys need a year, 2, 3 years to really get going.
I think two things for me, or I guess two things on the direct matter, and three things as it pertains to Francisco Lindor. The first two things is I don't really care if Mark Vientos is the real deal or not. That doesn't concern me. The Mets don't need him. Either way, they don't need him. I mean, I guess there is something to be said for getting the most value out of a tradable candidate. I don't think he's going to be anywhere on the field or in the starting lineup for the Mets anywhere soon or anytime at all, to be honest with you. So I agree with the press Mr. Met there that Vientos may not ever produce above average results in the major leagues. So, but I don't care about that. He wasn't really. He would have been nice, but Beatty, really, Alvarez and Mauricio were the cream of the crop to like do that, right? So that's one. Two, I think, I don't know, and this goes, I guess, it's to your point, but against your point, Nelson, is that the Mets really, I know that these guys are off to struggling starts, and more so Alvarez and Beatty at this point, because Alvarez started off hot, right? We all know he started off hot, and he's cooled down immensely since then. The only problem is in that I think fans, other than just the reactionary fans, someone like me, a fan that might worry over the course of the next year or two when the Mets really start to build this roster in terms of being a contender, that when that time comes around, that these guys have to produce at that point. Once this team produces that contending team, I guess in 2 years' time is what we're projecting them to be, those guys have to figure it out. So we can say a year or two, anything longer than that they need to take to figure it out, you start questioning at that point. I know that's a long ways away. I just wanted to forward think at that point. And I guess the third thing that I wanted to say before we get into, or I guess I'll let you respond to that real quick before we get into my last question on Lindor, if you have anything to say as a rebuttal on that.
No, I agree. I'm not saying that after a couple years you shouldn't worry. I'm just saying sometimes it takes that long for these guys to like hit their stride. Like I get not starting to worry after 2 years or even after I'd say 2 years. A year is not enough, I don't think. And all these guys are in their first year. So if next year they're not starting to show signs, then yeah, we got a problem. I'm just saying, just let's slow down on making judgments based off small sample sizes because they may end up being great. They may end up being trash. We just don't know yet. It's too early to make those proclamations.
And I agree with that. And I think the Mets are in a position where they can allow these guys that are supposed to be the real deal to figure that out within this next year, year and a half, however long they need before realistically we get into 2025. Unless by some miraculous way the Mets are really going to be shooting for contention next year, which we still don't know. It's in limbo. We won't know until the offseason comes here. We have a president of baseball operations, like we've been saying this whole time. So I think the Mets are in a perfect position to be flexible enough to allow these guys to figure it out. My question on Lindor before we get into Pete Alonso. Would you, depending on any sort of tradable candidates that are out there that come along before that contending year, presumably in 2025, is there anywhere else in the lineup, given that Lindor is probably not going to hit 280, 290 anymore, to be honest with you? I don't see him doing that with his power numbers up, hitting 30 home runs a year. He's more 250, 260 is more of his speed. We know that. Would you keep him in the third spot for the long haul in the lineup, or is there anywhere else that you can see him succeeding? Maybe the fifth, maybe the second? I don't know. Would you play around with that?
I mean, I feel like he could. I like him at second more than I like him anywhere else. I think he could easily move to second. I think it depends on who's on the team around him too. Like, we don't know what the lineup's going to look like next year, or who's going to be and who we're bringing in and not bringing in. I'm fine with him in the 2 or 3 spot. I don't think he's a cleanup hitter, maybe a fifth hitter. In Cleveland, he did lead off. I mean, maybe you want to fool around with that. I personally wouldn't. Also, that depends on what version of Nimmo you're getting, because Nimmo's.
I was going to say,
he's not really getting like a leadoff hitter. So I don't know. I would stick with him at 2 or 3. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I mean, it really does depend on what Nimmo, like you said, version of Nimmo we get. To me, Nimmo is more of a 7, 8, 9 speed guy. I mean, he's not really going to be producing. I can't see Nimmo anywhere else outside the leadoff spot in the top 5, just because if he's hitting home runs like that, maybe you can put him 5, 6. But I don't really think he's the guy that I want leading off in the future if he's going to keep going down this route of being home run happy. But also, that also question that I just raised also depends on Pete Alonso and his situation moving forward, right?
Yeah, for sure. And we'll get into Pete here, but I need to catch up on an interesting little debate in the comments here. The press Mr. Met says, in my opinion, the Braves are not a playoff team, which I think he clarifies here later. It's not that he doesn't think they're going to make the playoffs, he doesn't think they're going to make noise in the playoffs, which I've said it before. I think the Braves in the playoffs are choke artists. I know I got slack for it. I know they just won a World Series. I get that. But if you look at their history, look at the way they performed in the playoffs outside of that World Series year, they've been pretty bad. They usually don't live up to expectations. So I can see where he's coming from. JNY Sports says, I hope you're joking. That's because I think he meant they're not meant. Obviously, they're making the playoffs. The press Mr. Met, they might have the pitching and hitting, but they don't have any leaders for the playoffs when they're down in a 2-1 series. I'm not going to comment on the leadership thing. I don't know. I just don't believe in them in the playoffs that much. That's just me. Last year, they went red hot into the playoffs, and the Phillies shut them down. Also true. JNY Sports, the playoffs are a crapshoot nowadays. Talent-wise, they should at least be in the NLCS. Talent-wise, yes, but talent doesn't always prevail in the playoffs. Depressed Mr. Met, they're either homer or nothing. They are a little homer happy. I will give you that. First move I want to see is Buck getting fired. Yeah, we've talked about that. We don't know what's going to happen with that. I think we'd all like to see Buck go. But it's going to come down to whoever the president of baseball operations is, which I think we hope is David Stearns, but who knows at this point. Let's jump into Pete. Pete Alonso, he got 40 to the 40 homer mark once again in his career, over 100 RBIs. I mean, nothing to sneeze at with those numbers, obviously. You'd love to see the average better. I mean, 220s is not where I want him to live. I can live with 240, 250, 220s is a little rough. But I mean, you're giving me 40 homers, 100 RBIs. I can't argue with that. Like I said, I'd love to see him on the team going in the future. I just have a limit to my number. I know some people don't. Some people just want to give him whatever. But yeah, man, I good for him. I love to see it. Love to see him get hot to end the year. What are your feelings on Pete?
I mean, I love Pete Alonso. I mean, he's a guy that's been producing for the Mets ever since he came up. I get that he's hitting 225 now. His career speed is more, and his sample size really indicates that he's a 250, mid 250s hitter. Do I think that this 220 spell, average wise persists into next season and beyond? I don't think so. I think his sample size speaks for itself. I've been saying that for quite some time. I want him to get paid. We've already had the talks numerous times on the Interstate Mets Report about the Pete Alonso situation, not only the contract situation, but the hit by pitch situation. Like we've talked about that already. So all things aside, 40 home runs, 100 RBIs, great feat. I think he had a multi-home run day not too long ago, last couple days over the weekend that I watched the highlights on. A good comment here that I see from Depressed Mr. Met says, do you think that Pete Alonso actually wants to be here? That's what I'm wondering, because I am not too convinced that he actually wants to be here, to be honest with you. And that is the whole other side of the argument to whether you pay Pete or you trade him. And I think that's a lot of what people don't realize. Everyone's like, oh, he loves it in New York. He's going to take that hometown discount or the homegrown discount because he's always been a New York Met. No, he's not. I don't think he's in any boat or situation or anything that he's pointed to or alluded to that he's willing to take a hometown discount with the New York Mets. And he really, quite frankly, has no reason to. He doesn't have any reason to. And I don't blame him for doing it. So that is the whole other side of the argument that I think a lot of people are really just lacking in terms of a consideration on. 40 home runs, though, just this season alone, 40 home runs and 100 RBIs again. Phenomenal. I think he set the Mets all-time RBI mark last year, I believe, right? It was like 130 something, if I'm not mistaken. Beat out David Wright. I think that's what it was. Anyways, though, I mean, phenomenal players. Defense is something to be, I guess, concerned about long term. Has flexibility to move to the DH if leadership can convince him of doing so. But literally, after everything that I've watched Pete Alonso do this year, included with these metrics, I mean, I don't see how you would not want him on the Mets if he is mutually wanting to be on the Mets. That's my stance on it, and that's my stance on this 40 100 is right in front of your face, everybody's faces. Like you can't refute that. You can't refute that kind of production. So that's my take on Pete Alonso.
No, that's great production for sure, and you're right. The question, everybody's like, well, the Mets need to sign. The Mets need. Does Pete actually want to sign? I don't know if we talked about it. I know I talked about it on my own. There were reports that Pete got a contract offer, and it just wasn't close to what he wanted. It's like, okay, what do you want? Like if he just wants something above and beyond that, just and doesn't think that the Mets are gonna give it to him, and he's like, you know what, I'd rather test free agency, then you have to think about trading him because you can't afford to just lose him.
Yeah.
So it does come down to what he wants. And I saw an interesting comment. Stevie Mac, after everything that just happened, I wouldn't be surprised if Pete wants to get away from all the media nonsense that comes with being in New York. This is an excellent point. I don't think fans realize that their toxicity, and I know some people say, oh, well, they need to not be sensitive. They get paid millions of dollars. But listen, some fans are just ruthless, and they take it personal, and they go after players' families, and they tweet at their wives, and they tweet crap about their kids, and it gets nasty. And I'm sure that happens everywhere, but that happens to a heightened level in New York. And I can see players just being like, you know what? I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to deal with that on top of the media being ridiculous and making up crap. Obviously, the New York media is way more than any media you deal with anywhere else. There's just way more reporters. You could go to Tampa or Pittsburgh or any number of teams and just not have to deal with cameras in your face every day because they just don't have. They have like one or two guys covering the team. It's an interesting point. Like, at some point, do these guys just go, is it worth it, no matter what money they give me, to deal with this crap? Especially when you got a family and stuff like that, like, you gotta have like some heavy shoulders to like be able to bear that brunt. And that's another reason I give Lindor credit, because for all the crap he gets, and he's got a family to deal with, and he still goes out there, gets in front of the media every day, says the right things. I mean, I just don't get the hate he gets, but I can see players not wanting to deal with the nonsense. Like, that makes perfect sense.
Well, DeGrom didn't. I mean, DeGrom just
Thank
wanted
you.
to get out 100%. There's a give or take there too. I mean, the media does kill it a lot. They kill the entire. I mean, fans and media alike in New York are the ones I guess you could say are the reason why players might not want to come to New York. The pressure being another reason, right? To go hand in hand with the media and the fans. But to be honest, though, I will say that if you are that guy in New York and if you are able to handle the pressure, I mean, the benefits like could match the cons of playing in New York. Like if you were that guy, like they're talking about Derek Jeter, Aaron Judge, like these guys, and I'm not saying these guys like everybody has to be like them. It's a personal choice at the end of the day. But there is something to be said for playing in the larger market and also reaping the benefits of that. But there's gonna be pros and cons of everything and every decision. So no, I completely get that 100%. And yeah, some of the stuff that
Nobody
we
ever
see
really
on the
came at Jeter,
was that
though. To counter that a little bit, nobody ever really came at Jeter. Like, very rarely did anybody come at Jeter. He might have been booed because every Yankee gets booed at some point. But if it happened, it was very rare. Like, and he played a little bit before the social media age really got too crazy, where fans are just tweeting you and saying nasty crap at you all the time. Like, it was a little bit of a different era. Aaron Judge, I guess, is more of a better example, but I mean, he's been hurt all year, for most of the year anyway. So we'll see how that works out, that contract. But yeah, I get your point, and it is a valid point. If you can make it here, you're a legend. Obviously, these polls I'm doing over this 86 Mets compared to like newer Mets, the 86 Mets still get nothing but love, and this was 30 something years ago. Like, it's crazy the amount of love those guys get, but that just proves if you win in this town, if you can handle the pressure, you hit God status. And so if you can do it, more power to you. I'm just saying, obviously there's guys that just don't want to deal with the crap.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, I guess realistically, there's a couple comments here that I wanted to highlight. Realistically, what do you think about this? I don't know if I see this happening, but who would you think Pete Alonso would go to if it wasn't going to be re-signed with the Mets?
The Rays make sense just because of where he's from, but they don't have the money that I think unless they do something crazy, because it's not like them to spend that kind of money. That's the thing too. Like, we have talked about this before. Like, if he hits the free agent market, how many teams are really going to be after him? I don't know. Like, the Giants would make some sense.
I'll say a division rival with the Giants is the San Diego Padres would be after him.
Yeah, the Padres kind of go after everybody, but they're having some TV deal issues. They're a hot mess over there. Maybe they figure it out and right the ship next year, but maybe they don't. They're already talking about maybe trading Soto, so I don't know. I don't know if they'll be wanting to throw that kind of money at Pete. The Red Sox maybe, but they got a couple options over there at first. I don't see the Yankees throwing money at him. I just don't see a lot of teams really being in the market for the guy. I really don't. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just don't see like a huge market for Pete Alonso.
I want to ask you a question. I know we joked about this on a previous episode of the Interstate Mets Report, but honestly, at this point, because I named the San Diego Padres as legitimately probably needing a first baseman at this point, moving forward, and probably either being in on him in free agency or via trade, what would a Pete Alonso for Juan Soto trade look like? Who's getting the better end of the deal? Probably the Mets, I would say.
And that's because of
And
the
is that a 1-for-1, or is that Juan Soto for Pete Alonso and a prospect?
I feel like San Diego would want more. If I could do that 1-for-1, I'm gonna be honest with you, I'd do it all day, every day.
Yeah.
Juan Soto is he's special.
He's generational.
Yeah.
And he's
Alonso
younger.
is too, but Alonso's a little older. Alonso's not as good defensively. Juan Soto checks a lot of boxes. I would do that deal.
I hope the wrong side of Mets X or Mets Twitter does not see what we're talking about right now, because that would not be a popular take amongst them. But to be honest, just talent-wise, strictly talking ball, that it makes sense to me too. I think I'm on board with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not something that's probably going to happen, and that's what people just jump to like yell at you. It's like we're just talking here. Like we've been adamant we don't really want to trade Pete Alonso, but we got to discuss all possibilities. Like we can't just live in a box where, oh no, Pete Alonso's just not going anywhere no matter what. Like, no, that's not realistic, people. Like, I'm sorry, I hate to burst your bubble, but it's a possibility that he has to go somewhere. Let's just catch up real quick.
Yeah, this one, I wanted to talk about this one. What do you think? Craig Counsell, yes or no? I did see a report out there saying that he probably is. I forgot what the headline was, but it's like Craig Counsell could be one of the most highly sought after free agents. Obviously, talking about managerial wise. Shoot, I mean, I'd take Craig Counsell. I'm not gonna lie to you, I would. If that means Buck Showalter's gone, I'd probably do it tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's the Stearns connection with Counsell. I don't know, like he's performing well with Milwaukee. Why would maybe they just want to keep him? Maybe he just wants to stay. I don't know. But it's a possibility, and I'd make that trade. If it's Counsell for Showalter, I'd do that all day. We'll see. There's gonna be a lot of questions and a lot of reports and options.
Wait, one counterpoint before we get into another comment is that I think a person who would say I don't want Craig Counsell here is that he hasn't won anything. My rebuttal is who on the market has won something that we could realistically get for 2024 and beyond. They don't, and nobody has an answer for me.
I talked about this in regards to Stearns on Friday because I said the same thing. The rebuttal you get for this anti-Stearns people, he hasn't won anything.
Yeah.
Very few managers, general managers, presidents of baseball operations have. Like, you're not going to find – there's a reason they're with those teams that they're on and they're not going anywhere because teams keep guys like that win World Series. Like, they're few and far between. So when if your end all be all for winning is World Series, then I'm sorry, your options are going to be limited. But if I look at it from winning games, making it to the playoffs consistently, those guys are winners. Like, I'm sorry, they are winners. Like, I don't know I just don't understand that argument. Like, no, you can't just go after guys that have only won World Series. That's just not realistic.
And Craig Counsell is a younger guy. He doesn't have enough sample size as Buck Showalter did. And I'm not saying I didn't want Buck Showalter here to begin with, because I did, but Buck Showalter had a much larger sample size in his managerial career that he hadn't won anything with than Craig Counsell does to his name right now. So that's why I want Craig Counsell. I think it'd be a good move if that ends up being a possibility if Stearns comes in as well. And it's all ifs right now. So
yeah, it's all ifs. And just like this one, the Mr. Met, if Pete gets traded or leaves, it's going to be extremely weird to see him in a different. Yeah, it will be. It's always hard to see guys that are here for a while go somewhere else. It's hard to see them in a different uniform, but eventually we shall get over it if it happens. If it's not a guarantee. Yep. I think the Mets should target Corbin Burnes. Again, Milwaukee connection. I could see it. You vouched for that, Chris. I think
I did, and that's where I need to. That's where I need to own up, and I'll get to that in the Mauricio discussion. But I did say that, and I think my main piece of the Mets compensation was Mauricio going in for Corbin Burnes. But I'll own up to it.
Or Blake Snell. I will hold up on that. I don't believe in Blake Snell. I'm scared of that just being contract year hype. He's been very up and down. I'm just going to touch on it briefly. We are losing a center field, a starting pitching possibility in Julio Urias, because I doubt anybody's touching him with a 10-foot pole after what just happened.
Yep.
That's all I'll say on that. Jung-Hoo Lee, Cubs need a first baseman. Yeah, Cubs. I could see the Cubs being in on Pete. That's a good choice. And obviously, I mean, the Brewers, I don't know that they have the money per se, but maybe they would spring for him. But they're interested in Pete. I would think if you want to trade for Pete, you have to pay him, unless they just really want to rent him. So that's an interesting team to keep an eye out for as well. We'll wrap it up. I'm trying to wrap it up by 6:00 here. Ronny Mauricio got the call up. Is off to a great start. We weren't sure if he was going to get called up. We were really starting to wonder if they were going to hold him back and just trade him in the offseason. Listen, they might still trade him. We don't know that they won't. He might prove, if he continues to hit this well, I think some fans would take it as, oh, that means he's got locked up a spot for next year. Could also mean another team looks at that and goes, hey, you want this for Mauricio? And maybe we say yes. You never know. This is all hypotheticals. So we may, hopefully it's not. Hopefully this is the start of a long, prosperous career for Mauricio with the Mets. But I wouldn't be shocked if he's not with the Mets next season. I'll just say it. So what are your thoughts on his start? I mean, he's been great. He's hitting 455 with a 1,000 OPS. Like, pretty solid to start off.
Yeah, five hits and 11 at bats. I think I saw 2 stolen bases to go with that. Has looked so far, from what I can see, okay on the defensive side at second base there. And we were kind of wondering what they're going to do. Were they going to DH him or put him at second, or maybe put him at third, depending on where Beatty's going to be at. They decided to move McNeil to the outfield, I guess, and then they put him at second base, and that's how it's worked out. So I agree with you. First of all, let me own up by saying, yes, I thought when I was convinced that he wasn't going to be called up. I thought that he was out of here 100%, not even going to get called up, and we're going to see you later, Mauricio. Things get a little interesting now, like you said. Yes, he could definitely still be traded in the offseason because, like I said many times before, with who's coming up, with who's already here, the infield is crowded. It's crowded, and he, quite frankly, still doesn't really have a solidified position on the team. He's trying out. This is his tryout for second base. Depending on what Pete Alonso does as well and what the first baseman situation is, maybe Pete Alonso moves over to the DH spot later on in his career if you give him a long-term deal. Where does that put Ronny Mauricio? That means you have to play Ronny Mauricio in the field. Ronny Mauricio's biggest asset is that he's a switch hitter. I will say that. So, and the Mets know that they can get more value for that. But I like what I've seen out of Ronny Mauricio so far. So it puts me at a crossroads in terms of what I want to see the Mets do moving forward. I get it. The sample size is really small. We saw it with Alvarez. Guess what? I'm not a type of person who will say, I want Alvarez gone now because he started slumping. Same thing. I won't say that for Ronny Mauricio. I'm saying it up front. I've been saying it that I still think it's a possibility that he gets traded. I think we're in agreement here, even despite this 11 at-bat sample size. So fans really have to take this all with a grain of salt because it doesn't really matter how well Ronny Mauricio performs. That is only one aspect of this equation. I get that it should, under normal circumstances, be the only aspect of the equation, whether you keep the guy or not. But with the Mets circumstances moving forward, with who they got coming up, with Jet Williams, Luis Angel Acuna, all that coming up, in addition to Brett Beatty, in addition to your franchise shortstop, Francisco Lindor, in addition to Jeff McNeil, who's a utility guy who can play infield or move to outfield, it's all going to be up to the discretion of the president of baseball operations and who he sees fit, because not all these guys can see the nine-man roster that plays every day in the field. So, and my thing is that if you don't have Ronny Mauricio playing every day in the major leagues, why would you not just trade him, maximize his value instead of making him a utility player? Making Ronny Mauricio and his talents a utility player makes zero sense to me. So that's my take.
I totally agree with you. It's a numbers crunch. We have a numbers crunch. He's one of the first guys here, so maybe that gives him a leg up, because the other guys we still got to wait on for a little bit. But if they decide that they believe more in Jet Williams and blanking on his name, Acuna, and guys like that, we even got Vargas way down the line. There's a lot of guys. There's these outfielders that are coming up, Gilbert and Clifford, and it's a lot of young guys, and we don't have that many positions. Like we can't play them all. So it's gonna come down to what they decide. Stevie Mac makes a good point. Mauricio versus Beatty. Let the battle. It could be a number of things. Maybe they do decide they want to keep them both, and they think they both can be on this roster. We don't know, but I'm just saying, don't, like you said, just don't think that him producing this month and him getting off to a hot start just means he's a lock, because anything can happen. The president could decide, listen, there's too good a deal on the table. I got to take it for whoever that may be. We don't know who that may be. Aaron says better weekend than Yankees prospect Jason Dominguez. Yeah, listen, I'm not going to get into my thoughts on Yankee prospects because I don't want the smoke. I honestly, I need a break from the Twitter smoke. So I'm just
There's not much to talk about on their prospect front. Let's be honest.
I'm going to keep my mouth shut. Dominguez did look good. He hit a couple of bombs though. Had more pop. He definitely hit the ball harder, I think. He smoked that first hit of his career. He smoked
117, right?
Yeah, something like that. Brandon Lane, my guys. What up, Brandon? Thanks for popping in. Appreciate you, brother. And I already got to that comment. So
I think just real quick before we close this out, I think that comment from Stevie Mac, Mauricio versus Beatty, the confidence level between those two guys is there's an immense gap. I think Mauricio plays with a lot more confidence, and that there is something to say for that. I like the way Mauricio conducts himself on the field in terms of his confidence, in terms of his overall stature, than Brett Beatty has looked so far this season. I'm not saying I'm giving up on Beatty, but Beatty's a guy that he's not starting to be here either for the long term. So
I'm going to wrap it up here, give you a chance to say your closing remarks. But Amish, can we talk about David Wright? That's been yeah. I've gone after, or not. I haven't gone after. I've gone back and forth with a couple people about David Wright and the disrespect that the man gets. Like it's pretty sad. The Hojo versus Wright argument was, to me, quite ridiculous. I love Howard Johnson, but David Wright's the guy. Mauricio in center field. That's an interesting choice. I don't see it, but you never know. Anything can happen, I suppose. But let's wrap it up. It's been an hour. Anything you got to say before I plug our stuff and get out of here?
Nah, man, I don't have anything to say. I appreciate all the heads in the chat here. Appreciate everybody commenting. The new guys, shout out Grant earlier. Brandon here towards the bottom, Edgardo. I haven't seen Edgardo here before. Shout out you, Edgardo. All the regulars, obviously, Aaron, Stevie, everybody that I missed, Jung-Hoo, Jay, all of them. I appreciate you guys. If I didn't mention you, we got a lot of comments today, so I'm sorry. But yeah, I appreciate it. Glad to be back. Gonna be back again this Friday, me and you, talking Mets, as much Mets as we can, finding topics to entertain our viewers with. We're counting down the days until the end of the season because we're gonna have a lot of content coming out in the off season. So keep rocking with us. We're gonna be up on your screen talking Mets off season baseball. This is just a little bit of a slow time in this season, and if the Mets were competitive right now, it'd be a lot more fun. But we're sticking with it, and we're gonna keep doing this. So appreciate that. Nice, lovely Tuesday we got here. Hopefully everybody enjoyed their Labor Day weekend, but more Mets baseball. I guess it kicks off today with the Nats this last half of the season, and we'll see what happens. Interesting topics, I said. We'll see how these guys finish out. Can Lindor reach that 30-30 season? Continue to monitor and keep an eye on Ronny Mauricio in terms of his performance on the field. Defensively and offensively. We'll see how the guys that are slumping, Beatty, Alvarez, let's see if they can get back on track to gain some steam moving forward to 2024. A lot of things to still watch. DJ Stewart, these guys playing for roster spots, the tail end of the roster spots next season. Will they be DFA candidates? Will they be retained going back into the minor league system for 2024 and beyond? This is all a question mark that we're all trying to figure out. We're keeping an eye out on. So more so those things that I mentioned than the wins and losses on the field. But appreciate you guys. It was a good episode. We'll be back Friday. That's all I got.
All right. I'll give my final thoughts here real quick. But before that, just a little shameless plugging. Don't like to do it too much, but before the episode, just follow us or follow me on X at Amish Country Met if you can. Like I said, we've been having some good debates about the all-time Mets and rounding out our roster. So if you want to join in on that conversation, follow me over on X. Also, I'm at Amish Country Mets Fan on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And of course, if you haven't already, most of you I hope have, but if you haven't yet, please subscribe to my YouTube at Amish Country Mets Fan. If you're over on Chris's page and haven't subscribed to me yet, if you can hop over at some point and subscribe to the channel, I'd greatly appreciate it. And the same the other way around. If you happen to be on my channel, haven't subscribed to Chris's YouTube yet, please jump over to his at CPNYSports. Check him out there. Also follow Chris on X and Instagram at CPNYSports as well. And you can follow us on X at the Interstate Mets. That's our account for the show. Thank you all for watching. Appreciate you. Chris already shouted out most of the people in the comments. They depressed Mr. Met. I don't know if you got to him. Aaron, JNY, everybody that watched us today. Grant from the Genie Mets. Appreciate him popping in. My guy Brandon, always appreciate you. Thank you so much for popping in. And yeah, join us again on Friday. We'll find something to talk about. I promise. We will figure it out. Thank you all. Have a great night. And let's go Mets. And don't forget, we're going to get that wild card spot.
Thank you for watching the Interstate Mets Report. Streaming Tuesdays at 5 p.m. and Fridays at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to at Amish Country Mets Fan and at CPNY Sports.